Well, this is the seed room. We store the soil underneath this awning. We have a table lined with old linoleum that we fill trays with.
Bunk bed,
Yeah.
grad school.
Feel free to peek under there.
Yep.
None of this is like particularly fancy, but it's the setup that lets us fill a lot of trays quickly. Um, we'll go through 3 totes like that in a year. And then in here, the trays are stored, the seeds are stored, and we have a vacuum seeder. And anyone who hasn't used a vacuum seeder, we can go in there and maybe on our walk back actually seed a tray or two so you can see it. I think it's, one of the things I wanted to give people a chance to do here today is just like see all these different options. If you're thinking of making an investment or making a change to your, setup, you could decide which would become like the highest priority based on what you actually get to see. And I think the vacuum seeder is just completely indispensable for us. Like we could not go back in time. That's the one that we would definitely need to have under any circumstances. So I'm a huge advocate for them as like getting a time saver. And I want to make sure anyone who hasn't ever had a chance to use one gets to see it in action. It's not like, a farm hack. They're super common, but it's out there. And I think that it's good for people to know about and see. So that's in there. I don't know that we could all fit in there. Uh, yeah, but I will bring out the different kinds of trays we use.
So that the grant that we were discussing earlier about um, having more durable trays, being able to tighten that up, that allowed us to purchase these guys. A smart finding around the way. We do a lot of vacuum seating into these. Um, what else would you like to say? What's worth saying?
Yeah, so these are the two that we wanted to try. This one people are familiar with, right? This is the 128 from Neversink, the old wind strip, right? And it's out there, and so these are easy to get now. This one is made by PropTech. It's an actual 1020 footprint, which is cool. I think we would have gotten all prop tech at the time. That's how we had written the grant because I just wanted the size to be uniform, and the prop tech lets you have a lot more trays than the Winstrip. This has all that empty space. It's intentional, but I was thinking I was leaning towards this for sure with a 144 that they make, but their supply is kind of spotty. Sometimes it's available, sometimes it's not, and I just felt like Neversink's got a good thing going right now, and that's probably going to be a product you can get for a while. Um, so I was happy to order that instead. The 144s from PropTech, and I like them both a lot, and I like them both so much more than the disposable trays. And it's not just about like not having to throw things away or buying extra flimsy plastic mid-season, but the plants are way happier in them significantly. And when it's time to plant, we don't do any soil blocking, right? So everything's done in cells. When it's time to plant, you can pull a plant out of a rigid tray so much more easily with less destruction than you could out of a flimsy tray that has that like a little bit of give, like a little suction, right? When you go to pull the plant out, you don't have to fight it that hard. So, anyways, like to really advocate for using trays like this.
I
Uh,
mean, this is a portable because it's a different size cell that we use for cucurbits. But you can't just carry this guy. You have to have a two-part situation, and there's Lindsay and
Yeah, but really just being able to pop the cells out. I've got this plastic one for the 128s, and
yeah. I will say it was an expense though too. It was definitely something that we did dig out funding for because
yeah,
it is a chunk of change
yeah,
compared to one of these.
yeah. But but the plants have really, 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 really benefited. And it is much easier on us, easier to carry them and transport them. One hand can hold them, and there's a lot of like I'm a big advocate for using like a rigid planting tray. Um, yeah, has made things really, really nice. So maybe we'll reserve the seed room for anyone who wants to walk through it on our walk back. What should we look at? Prop house? There's not a lot to look at in there, but let's go ahead and see. We use white shade cloth on this one. White shade cloth is like such an optical illusion. It doesn't look like it's going to do anything. But if you walk under here and you stand underneath it, you'll realize it's doing a lot. Anyways, nothing particularly innovative going on in here, but it's good to just sort of see how people have their setups. I don't really trust the overhead irrigation for my whole season. It's great if I'm going to be gone in the afternoon and I want to make sure it gets watered. I can set it on a timer if I want, but I still prefer even in the middle of the season, maybe I'll run it for like 15 minutes or something, but I still prefer to water some by hand. Trays just need water at different rates. The plants at different ages need different amounts of water. I've never found the ideal setting and spatial arrangement with um, multiple brands of overhead irrigation. I've never like been able to dial it in so that the outside of every tray is the same as the inside of every tray. So I end up watering by hand still. Um, I'm sure it's possible. I know it's done on big commercial greenhouses, but I don't trust it anymore. And so now I just build in some hand waterings. But it is still very nice to have it for when you're going to be gone in the afternoon. You're like, okay, whatever. I'll set it for 18 minutes and my plants aren't going to die. Yeah.
Did you choose PBC versus hardware block for cost or for their technical benefits of that?
I could slide the trays on and off.
Yeah.
I think we had it on hand and that's why we went for it. But I know it's easier to move to like fill a tray than on the hardware cloth where it kind of like can get stuck. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep. And so in the peak season, we go all the way except for the last 2 tables. We fill the whole thing out, when tomatoes are bumped up and we've got all of the squash and the cucurbits and they get planted. We fill the whole thing out. But this time of year, we shrink it down. I've got 45 trays I was supposed to seed last week, but it was so hot. I just thought, I'll give it a week. I didn't want to seed when it was 92. So we'll have to fill like 4 more of these tables out. And then it starts shrinking. And in the wintertime, we'll never have more than 2 tables sitting on here. So it's like you need like room to grow with the season, but then you don't utilize it in the off season. So it becomes just storage for us.
And this is why you said you use the clear shade cloth?
I went to shade cloth in here because I was worried about that purple sprouting broccoli field, that overwinterable brassica field. Sometimes when we have brassicas in here in July, they have like gotten wire stem. And so I've tried to like lower the temp in here during that hot time of year. So we really only put that up like at the beginning of July, and then we'll take the shade cloth down sometime in August. So it just takes a little edge off of the temperature.
And this is the part about why white shade cloth, like why not dark blue?
White shade cloth is supposed to, in addition to providing shade, even though it doesn't seem like it is, it's also supposed to like reflect light away so that the temp of what you're shading, the air temp, is lower. Yeah. Supposed to. It is, yeah. And as I stand under it and sweat, I feel like it's not doing anything. But on your walk out, wait till you get to that spot in the ground where there is no shade cloth and you realize, oh, it's actually shading. It just doesn't look like it. It doesn't like, push the intuitive shade button because it's white. All right, should we go look at some stuff outside?